Good evening. You're watching the news at 7:30 on ATV. I'm Edna.
And I'm Emily Sue. Here's a look at tonight's top stories.
LegCo president denies Siwa Leung broke rules by writing to him before eventful Q&A session.
Outgoing Police Complaints Commission head claims Occupy Central movement is not breaking the law.
U.S. defense chief accuses Beijing of stirring up trouble in the South China Sea.
LegCo President Zhang Yuxing has denied claims that the chief executive broke the chamber's rules by writing to him before last week's question and answer session.
Zhang adjourned the session after lawmakers threw bombs at Leung Chun-ying, but he says he took appropriate action and was not influenced by the letter. Winner Wang reports.
Radical lawmakers Raymond Wong, Leung Kwok-hung, Albert Chan, and Raymond Chan were all evicted from LegCo last Thursday after three of them hurled or tried to hurl buns at Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying during his question and answer session. Their actions forced LegCo President Zhang Yuxing to adjourn the meeting for the first time ever. This prompted Chief Secretary Carrie Lam to write to Zhang on Monday to complain about the behavior of the four lawmakers. But it was revealed yesterday that Leung himself also wrote to Zhang the day before the Q&A. In the letter, he told Zhang to lecture and criticize lawmakers who violate chamber rules and tarnish the image of LegCo. Zhang admitted today he replied to Lam, but not Leung.
Yes, I received the letter, and I took it very seriously. I consulted my secretariat, the Secretariat of the Legislative Council, and I think we did whatever should be done to make sure that meetings would be conducted properly.
He dismissed claims that he adjourned the session because he felt pressured by Leung, or that he chose not to reply to Leung because he felt the chief executive was trying to challenge his authority or override LegCo powers. He said instead of replying to Leung in writing, he already took appropriate actions by adjourning the Q&A. The chief secretary backed the president, saying she agrees that the government and LegCo must work together to protect the dignity of lawmakers and officials and make sure everyone shares the goal of serving the Hong Kong people. She added that she has written to Zhang many times in the past, and the letter she sent on Monday was nothing out of the ordinary. But former LegCo president and current member of the National People's Congress Standing Committee Rita Fan said it would be normal for the chief executive to write to Zhang, and he didn't break any rules of the chamber. She said Leung can write to whoever he wants, but he must have had a good reason to write to him. Winner Wong, ATV News.
Organizers of the June 4th candlelit vigil have dismissed criticism that the event had been ritualized.
They say the accusation is an insult to the many Hong Kongers who turn up each year to commemorate the event. Every year on the 4th of June, a sea of candles lights up Causeway Bay's Victoria Park as tens of thousands of people turn up to remember the crackdown on students at Tiananmen Square in 1989. Being the 25th anniversary of the incident, organizers of the vigil are expecting a record turnout this year. But core members of the Hong Kong Alliance in support of patriotic democratic movements of China are concerned about other groups who are planning their own memorials. At least one group, Civic Passion, has already said it will hold its own vigil in Tsim Sha Tsui and expects a turnout of 3,000 to 4,000 people. The Alliance's Zheng Meng-Kwong said today that he respects all the different ways people commemorate June 4th, as long as the different groups don't hurt each other. Alliance Chairman Lee Chuk-yen meanwhile said if people are not all concentrated in Victoria Park, it may weaken the power of the demand for truth about June 4th from Beijing. If we're not united, said Lee, the Communist Party will be happy. The unionist lawmaker also urged vigil participants to ignore any provocative acts staged by pro-Beijing group Voice of Loving Hong Kong, which is planning a counter-rally outside the park. Both Lee and Zheng also condemned critics who say the candlelight vigil has become a ritual. Zheng said the vigil is a solemn commemoration of what happened in 1989, so it's hard to avoid certain procedures, such as reciting obituaries or placing wreaths. But to dismiss these acts as ritualistic, Zheng stressed, is an insult to everyone who has lit a candle at the vigil. In a separate development, Independent Police Complaints Council Chairman Zed Siu Tong said today he doesn't think the Occupy Central movement will undermine Hong Kong's rule of law. Zed said the organizers have made it clear they wish to carry out the protest peacefully and haven't encouraged their supporters to break the law. However, it's likely the protest will involve jaywalking, which is illegal. Chief Secretary Carrie Lam, meanwhile, said Occupy Central is too small of a movement to challenge the city's rule of law.
Of course, the rule of law is Hong Kong's cornerstone, and it is one of our most important core values. It has taken a lot of time to build up this core value in Hong Kong. I don't think one or two radical actions of this nature will upset or destroy the rule of law in Hong Kong.
Occupy leaders want to gather up to 10,000 people and block streets in the city's business heart if the government fails to roll out a universal suffrage plan for the 2017 chief executive election that they approve of. Jett urged the police and protesters to be polite and respect each other if the occupation happens and officers have to clear the scene. Public housing tenants may face a rent increase of up to 10% after the Housing Authority conducts its review next month.
It's not known yet if the government will provide any waivers to offset the burden. Public housing rents are reviewed every 2 years, and the Housing Authority is expected to announce an up to 10% increase after its meeting next month. Subsidized Housing Committee Chairman Stanley Wong says the expected rise is close to the upper limit allowed under the housing ordinance. He added that the changes will be based on the median household income of public housing tenants under the existing rental adjustment mechanism. Wong said there may be an increase of between 8 or 9% or even 10% after looking at the changes in income and prices of commodities in 2013 compared with 2011. Wong did not say if there will be a 1-month rental waiver to public housing tenants after the increase, because the authority is facing a huge financial burden due to construction costs. Wong added that the adjustments is based on the affordability and statistics. Currently, there are 168 public rental housing estates with over 740,000 flats. Nearly 560,000 families in public housing units faced a 10% monthly rent hike in 2012 after the last review. A 1-month rent waiver was granted at a cost of $1 billion to offset the increase. The chairman of Ledge Coast Railways Committee expressed sympathy today for the MTRC amid widespread complaints about the railway's latest fare increase.
But he slammed the company's sweeteners as useless. Winner Wong reports.
The latest MTR fare increases have angered the public and politicians who complain that the company is raking in cash as it is. Its plans to raise fares by 3.6% at the end of next month has critics calling the company greedy. Spokesperson for the Coalition to Monitor Public Transport and Utilities, Richard Soy, said it was ridiculous how the MTRC made a profit of $13.2 billion last year, but was still raising fares for the 5th year in a row. But not everyone agrees. Chairman of LegCo's Railway Subcommittee, Michael Tian, reminded the public the MTRC is still a listed company. Apart from looking at the money they've earned, they need to consider how much the company has invested and its responsibility to its shareholders, who are not just the government. Tian also responded to calls for rail operations to be stripped from the MTRC.
Because there's a public outcry to first nationalize rail services, which is the last thing government wants to do because it means going back to the KCR days. Secondly, there's a public outcry to open the entire Hong Kong market to outside operator. That would also create another nightmare for them because of the Ngong Ping 360 nightmare. Remember the old days where they were Australian operators that came and they did not respond to local needs, and then eventually MTR has to move in to fix up everything.
Instead, Tian said railway reform needs to come from within the company.
I think many years later, when we look back at the Express Rail saga, it is a blessing in disguise. It puts a lot of pressure on government and on MTR to be willing to change and reform. I think the MTR management now, other than the top two whose contract will be up soon, most of the local management really wanted to see some reform. They don't want to be cursed at every day.
Tian also welcomed reports that controversial Development Secretary Paul Chan may be appointed to the MTRC's board, claiming it might make the company more accountable and transparent. But at the same time, he slammed the discounts that are supposedly aimed at sweetening the fare increase as ignorant and incomplete. One of them, the early bird discount, benefits people traveling between 7:15 and 8:15 on weekday mornings, a measure said to help ease the passenger flow during rush hour. Tian said nobody is going to go to work early just because of a little discount. Winna Wong, ATV News.
U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel has accused Beijing of destabilizing the South China Sea and threatening progress in the region.
Speaking at an Asia-Pacific Security Forum in Singapore, Hagel insisted Washington would not look the other way while international order is being disrupted. Raymond Young reports.
During a 3-day security summit in Singapore said to be aimed at easing growing tensions in the region, U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel has some harsh words for China.
China has called the South China Sea a sea of peace, friendship, and cooperation. And that's what it should be. But in recent months, China has undertaken destabilizing unilateral actions asserting its claims in the South China Sea.
Hagel's comments come as territorial spats in the region intensify, with Vietnam and China making counter-accusations over the sinking of a Vietnamese fishing boat not far from disputed waters where Beijing placed an oil rig.
We also oppose any effort by any nation to restrict overflight or freedom of navigation, whether from military or civilian vessels, from countries big or small. The United States will not look the other way when fundamental principles of the international order are being challenged.
Washington claims it takes no stance on territorial issues in the region, including the Diaoyu Islands, which both Beijing and Tokyo say they own. However, U.S. President Barack Obama recently backed Japan by saying it would defend the islands if Beijing tried to take over them. Hagel's remarks echoed those by Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who at the same forum yesterday vowed that Tokyo would support other Asian countries protecting their seas and airspace, comments that could be seen as a rallying cry for nations in the region to join forces against China. By putting the blame solely on Beijing, Hagel reaffirmed Washington's alignment with long-standing U.S. ally Japan. It's also a boost to the U.S. bond for former foe but newfound friend Vietnam, as Washington increases its military might in the region in an attempt to contain China. Hagel's comments also follow his visit to the mainland last month, during which he was lectured about interfering in disputes between other countries after the U.S. said China's air defense zone was provocative. Deputy Chief of General Staff of the PLA, Wang Guangzhong, who was also at the forum, said Hagel's speech was filled with threatening language and encouraged instability in the region. Raymond Yang, ATV News.
Still to come on ATV's main news. Health chief says he's pushing for higher tobacco tax.
England on foreign friendly ahead of World Cup campaign.
ATV World Channel makes this summer even hotter. All travelling information and popular dramas are just on World Channel. We open a window to let you see how extraordinary the world can be. Follow Begin Japanology into the world of Japanese culture. Classic spectaculars of all kinds. Challenging Kung Fu Master. Tackling ghosts' problems.
Is someone here?
Resolving criminal minds. Embrace the coming amazing summer. You're living in such a fascinating world, beyond imagination. Cameras can help you catch it. Take a close-up or wide angle. Every extraordinary moment is the marvel of super cameras. Super Cameras 3, tonight at 8. Exploring the young, cool and vibrant Berlin.
You know, every German has a little Adolf inside. A little tiny one, which must be suppressed.
Up and up, up and up.
And what was that they were chanting there?
Apple juice.
Experiencing the nicest prison life.
Hello, I think you've got my key.
And the most amazing beer spa. Paul Merton always seeks out surprises. Documentary World. Paul Merton in Europe. Monday night at 9. You don't have to go to Japan. You're already there. Follow Begin Japanology into the world of Japanese culture. Experience the traditional and modern life. Reveal the pursuit of romance and perfection. Every angle presents a unique Japan. Begin Japanology, tonight at 8:30.
Elemental Evolution. The ATV 2014 Miss Asia pageant is about to start. Ladies, come and show the world your beauty.
The ATV 2014 Miss Asia pageant. Waiting for your participation. Come and join us now.
Elemental Evolution. ATV Miss Asia Pageant 2014 is now inviting applications.
The government says it will continue to communicate with the chicken industry on compensation for people affected by the ban on mainland poultry imports.
This follows complaints from traders who are not happy with the one-off payout. The government imposed a 4-month ban on mainland chicken imports in February following the H7N9 bird flu scare. The suspension was to give authorities time to set up a segregation facility, so they will be prepared for future outbreaks. The government has proposed offering a one-off allowance of between $55,000 and $110,000 to traders and transporters who are affected by the ban. But suppliers who are involved in transportation or trading of local chickens may not be given the full amount. This has prompted accusations that the deal isn't fair. Health Chief Koen Man said today authorities will continue to discuss the issue with the relevant parties, but did not say if there is any room for changes. He admitted that the government's assessment may not satisfy everyone, but hopes the industry can understand that the money is coming from taxpayers. Ko also tried to ease the concerns of Ta Kuen Ling residents who are not happy with having their segregation site in their neighborhood. Ko said he understands their concerns and insisted there are stringent biosecurity and environmental measures. In a separate issue, Ko said the government has submitted a bill to increase tobacco duty by 20 cents per stick. He said he hopes LegCo can pass the budget bill on Wednesday, so tobacco duty is discussed as soon as possible. The 20 cents increase will raise the proportion of tobacco duty on the price of cigarettes to about 70%, the minimum level recommended by the World Health Organization. Smokers will have to pay an extra $4 for each packet of cigarettes. Ash from an Indonesian volcano is said to be disrupting flights in Australia.
But first, in a roundup of international news, a South Korean missionary has been sentenced to life in prison in Pyongyang. Raymond Young reports.
Kim Jong-ok has been sentenced to life with hard labor after being convicted of spying and setting up an underground church in North Korea. According to North Korea's official news agency, the South Korean missionary admitted he was guilty at yesterday's trial. Footage from Chinese TV showed Kim on show at a televised event in February, confessing to spying for South Korean intelligence. Pyongyang has rejected calls from Seoul to release him and allow his family to visit. Ash from Indonesia's Mount Sanggang, which erupted yesterday, has prompted Australia to cancel most flights out of Darwin. Residents of West Nusa Tenggara have been advised to flee the area. The Indonesian Center for Volcanology and Geological Hazard Mitigation says the ash has risen 3,000 meters and is moving east. The U.S. State Department has confirmed that an American carried out a suicide bombing in Syria last Sunday, one of 4 that killed or wounded dozens of people. The bomber, who called himself Abu Huraya al-Amriki, carried out the attack in Idlib province on behalf of Jabhat al-Nusra, a group linked to al-Qaeda.
We are concerned about the flow of foreign fighters into and out of Syria. It's difficult to provide that level of analysis or a precise figure, but we're engaged in a focused outreach effort with key partner governments regarding our shared concern over the flow of foreign fighters to the Syrian conflict.
The U.S. is training, funding, and arming militants trying to overthrow Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Staff at a children's hospital in Slavyansk in eastern Ukraine have been clearing up rubble after it was attacked by the Ukrainian army. The hospital is about 100 kilometers north of the separatist stronghold of Donetsk. 7 children were wounded in the attack. President-elect Petro Poroshenko has vowed to punish the separatists who shot down a helicopter near Slavyansk last week. Over in the U.S., a Ukrainian prankster who hit actor Brad Pitt in the face at a Los Angeles film premiere has been ordered to stay away from celebrity events. 25-year-old Vitaly Serdyuk pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor battery charge. Infamous in Ukraine for pulling pranks on celebrities, he was sentenced to 20 days of community service and 36 months on probation. Pitt was not seriously hurt, but issued a restraining order against Serdyuk. In previous exploits, Serdyuk tried to climb under actress America Ferrera's dress as she posed for photos, and was slapped by Will Smith after kissing the actor at a Moscow premiere. Raymond Yang, ATV News.
Time out for sports with Brittyn Clennett.
So England looked promising in their warm-up match.
That's right, they silenced critics with a solid performance. Roy Hodgson proved his inexperienced young squad is still one to fear as they eased to victory against Peru. Defending champion Spain also had little trouble against Bolivia in another friendly. England hosted Peru at Wembley for their final warm-up tie on home turf before setting off on their World Cup campaign. But they almost got off to an embarrassing start in the 19th minute when goalkeeper Joe Hart was put to the test with a deflected shot that almost looped over him. Southampton midfielder Adam Lallana showed why he's worth the $42 million Liverpool offered for him by tearing through the Peruvian defence, but Daniel Sturridge couldn't apply the finishing touch. Sturridge would redeem himself in the 32nd minute though. The Red striker received a throw before dribbling to the middle and firing in a sensational shot from the edge of the box. England kept the pressure on after the break and were rewarded in the 65th minute. Leighton Baines' corner found Gary Cahill, who managed to head one home in the crowded box. Just 5 minutes later, England were 3-0 up. Another corner kick from Baines was fumbled away by Peru keeper Raul Fernandez, and Phil Jagielka poked the loose ball home from close range. England manager Roy Hodgson will now gauge his boys' performances before naming the final squad on Monday. 2 more friendlies are set in Miami before the 3 Lions take on Italy in their first World Cup group match. Defending champions Spain, meanwhile, had a solid win over Bolivia in another friendly in Sevilla. In a goalless first half, the home side's best chance was this free kick by Juan Mata, which was tipped over the crossbar. With the crowd losing patience, Spain had some relief in the 50th minute when Bolivian defender Luis Gutierrez elbowed Javi Martinez in the box to concede a penalty. And Fernando Torres made no mistake from the spot to put his side up by a goal. Barcelona playmaker Andres Iniesta then added the icing on the cake late on. He punished the slack defence by dribbling down the pitch and driving a low shot into the bottom corner. Spain will also travel to the US to continue their preparations before facing Holland in their opener. In other sports news, Arsene Wenger will stay on as Arsenal manager for at least 3 more years. But first, golfer Phil Mickelson is being investigated for suspected inside trading. The FBI and the US Securities and Exchange Commission are investigating Phil Mickelson for possible insider trading involving billionaire investor Carl Icahn and Las Vegas gambler William Walters. Investigators are looking into whether Mickelson and Walters may have traded illegally on private information provided by Icahn about his investments in public corporations. Icahn has denied knowing about any investigation and insisted his firm always follows the law. He admitted having a business relationship with Walters, but said he didn't know Mickelson personally. Spokespeople for Mickelson, the FBI and the SEC have declined to comment, although there are reports that Mickelson's lawyer has denied he is the target of a federal probe. Elsewhere in golf, Paul Casey has taken sole leadership at the halfway stage of the Memorial Tournament in Ohio. After a solid opening round of 66, the Englishman was again red hot on a fine day in Murfield. Casey registered an eagle and 6 birdies en route to another round of 6 under 66. He is 3 strokes clear of second-placed American Bubba Watson, whose shot of the day was this drive on the 15th hole, which landed right next to the cup. He eagled the hole to cap his round of 69. Compatriot Chris Kirk is right behind, just 1 stroke off the pace, while Japanese Hideki Matsuyama is in a 2-way tie for 4th position at 137. Arsenal boss Arsene Wenger has put ink to paper on a 3-year extension. The Frenchman was roundly criticised for the Gunners' poor late-season form, which cost them the premiership. But it seems the 64-year-old, who's been in charge of the London club for 17 years, will get another shot.
Because the club has always shown faith in me, and I'm very grateful for that. You know, we have gone through fantastic periods, through periods where we had to stick together, and every time when that togetherness was tested, I got the right response, and I think I've shown some loyalty as well towards this club, and hopefully we can make some more history. I'm sure we can.
Wenger is also currently the Premier League's longest-serving manager.
A look at the weather before we go. It was another fine and hot day. Temperatures ranged from 28.4 to 32.8 degrees, while the relative humidity was between 65 and 85%. Winds were moderate, coming in from the south. And just a reminder, the very hot weather warning remains in force. Let's check on the ultraviolet reading. The maximum recorded for the day was 11. Tomorrow's UV index will be around 11 as well. Now for a look at the weather in the region. An airstream from the southwest is affecting the coastal areas of Guangdong. And now the satellite images. It is mainly fine over the coastal areas of Guangdong. Here's what we can expect over the next few days. Mainly fine and very hot tomorrow, apart from isolated showers in the morning. Temperatures will range from 28 to 33 degrees. The sweltering heat will last until early next week, when we can expect showers. Here are the latest pollution readings under the Air Quality Health Index. General stations are at 2 to 3, meaning the health risk is low. Roadside levels are at 3 to 4, and the health risk is low to moderate. Finally, here's the weather around the world.
Some main news for Saturday night. We'll have an update in 1 hour. I'm Edna.
I'm Brittyn Clennett.
And I'm Emily Sue. Thank you for watching ATV. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Coming up, Super Cameras 3.